Hello guys and welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about a tool that I use for planning my factories in Satisfactory and doing a little bit of a breakdown, a beginner's guide on how to use it, because today in stream we had a lot of questions about how I use Satisfactory planners in order to plan my builds. And there are various tools out there that you can use. There's Satisfactory Calculator. They have a way to plan your factory out. There's also the Satisfactory Modeler, which has recently been released, and a lot of people have been enjoying that. And then there's also the option for using Excel sheets or pen and paper, which many people do use, and people like myself who use Satisfactory tools. So I'm going to break down how I use Satisfactory tools and talk about why I think it's essentially the best tool for the job here. And it's because it's so easy to use. So let's head over to satisfactorytools.com. When you first jump in, this is going to be the page that you see most likely. So this is stating that it's the old version. This is pre 1.0. So do make sure to click the go to 1.0 tools. You don't really need to look at the calculator for update 8 or previous updates, because some of the recipes have changed. Now this is the page you will be given, and from here we need to go along the top to calculator. This is where we're going to be planning out our factories, and it's pretty simple to use. So the first thing that I'm going to show you how to do is just to really quickly set up a basic factory line. So we're going to click on this search or select items, and from here we'll do, reinforced iron plates, and we're just going to type that in, and from here it's going to set an items per minute and then the amount that you're going to be producing, or the target you want produced, and it will come up with this little overview here, and it shows that you need 120 iron, which will go to 4 smelters, and then from here with the base recipe, the vanilla recipe, need to be split between 2 constructors producing iron rods and 3 constructors producing iron plates. And you can also see the resources required for each line. So we have 90 iron ingots going to the constructors, and we have 30 going to the 2 constructors for iron rods. From here, the iron rods will go on to 3 screw constructors, and then the screws will meet with the iron plates to 2 assemblers, which will be producing reinforced iron plates to produce 10 reinforced iron plates per minute. This is a really easy system that's been built up. If you want to change the amount that you're producing, for example, we want 30, you can see it's automatically calculated how much you need of everything. On top of that, if you want to do, say, 20 reinforced iron plates, but you want to add other items to this particular factory, such as let's say all of our iron for our starter factory, we can do iron plates, and we'll produce, let's say, 20 of them. Then we're going to have, iron rods, and we'll produce 30, I guess. And you can see from here we have 300 iron ore going into the factory, 10 smelters, and then from here we'll have 6 constructors producing the iron rods with 30 going off to storage, and then the other 60 iron rods going to 6 screw constructors, which then go to 4 reinforced iron plate assemblers to produce the 20 reinforced iron plates, along with your 7 iron plate constructors, sending 120 to that assembler and 20 being sent to storage. Now, a lot of people can do this kind of layout in Satisfactory tools, but they do tend to get a little bit more confused if they're trying to maximize a node, or if they're trying to use alternate recipes. And that can be quite confusing. So let's go over that really quickly. So instead of producing 20 reinforced iron plates, this time we're going to take let's say, I don't know, 300 iron ore and see how much we can produce from that using the vanilla recipe. So in this circumstance, rather than use this box, we're actually going to go across to our items and inputs. And then from here, we can type in the iron ore box 300. This means that for this layout, we're going to be using 300 iron. Now, one thing I will mention is thanks to SAM being added into the game and being used to convert into different resources, if you leave this checked and using the 10,200 SAM that's available in the game, it will, in fact, I'll show you really quickly, it will do its best to, when we click maximize up here, use all that 10,200 SAM to help produce your 2,575 reinforced iron plates per minute. We obviously don't want that if we're just trying to use 300 iron. So instead, we're going to go to the items and inputs, and we're going to just deselect the SAM resource. If for whatever reason you're using another layout and it seems to be using, I don't know, crude oil when you don't want it to, now you know to just deselect it. Anyway, with our 300 iron ore selected, we can head over to the production planner, and as you saw, we clicked maximize rather than items per minute. And you can see here, using the vanilla recipe, we now have 300 ore producing a total of 25 reinforced iron plates. Fantastic, I hear you say. It's such a good tool, but what if I wanted to use alternate recipes? Well, don't worry, Satisfactory Tools has you covered there. So this time we're going to stick with the 300 iron ore input. Remember, we have 25 reinforced iron plates being produced with this base recipe, and we're going to go to recipes. On the right hand side, we have our base recipes. On the left, we have our alternate recipes. Now, if we don't want to use a vanilla recipe for something, I often deselect the vanilla recipe because sometimes it will choose that one for whichever reason over the alternate recipe. But say we want to use stitched iron plates. There we go. Stitched iron plates, which is a reinforced iron plate alternate recipe. And here we can see the visualization. We've got 200 copper ore, 300 iron ore, and from that we're producing 60 reinforced iron plates per minute. But hang on, we didn't want to use copper. Well, we do have another alternate recipe that we can use for this. We can use the iron wire recipe, and we will tick that. And you can see that it's still choosing to go with the base recipe for copper wire, or wire I should say, because it's going to produce more reinforced iron plates. I think that's the reason why it chooses that over an alternate recipe. So we are going to now deselect wire. There we go. And now we're just using that 300 iron ore. And you can see that the output is going to be 34.468 reinforced iron plates per minute. So this is how you use the Satisfactory tools to create a basic production line, how to maximize based on the amount of resources that you have available in your location, and also using alternate recipes. But what if you have an issue, such as if we start a new build here, we want to produce turbo fuel. We have turbo fuel here, and we want to produce, I don't know, 100 per minute. And you can see that we're getting this error message coming up saying, unfortunately, we couldn't calculate any result. This may be due to many things: missing resource required for the production line, or not enough resources for the requested amount, or disabled recipes. So we know roughly what the issue is. It's either there is a missing resource, there aren't enough resources, or we've disabled the recipes. I don't think there's any other reason that this error message would be shown, but perhaps there is. So how we're going to fix this is we're going to go across to our recipes. Now, if we type in turbo fuel or turbo, you can see in our base recipes that we have 2 packaged turbo fuel to 2 empty canisters equals 2 packaged turbo fuel. We also have the unpackaged turbo fuel, 2 packaged turbo fuel to 2 turbo fuel and 2 empty canisters. These turbo fuel recipes that we see here are not the base resources that are used to produce turbo fuel. So we can make the assumption that it's going to be in the alternate recipes list, which it is because you have to unlock it via the MAM. So if you're typing in the turbo fuel and you can't find a reason, make sure that you go to the alternate recipes and you type in turbo fuel and then select the recipe that you have. The base one is turbo fuel, but there's also turbo fuel, turbo blend fuel, and also turbo heavy fuel. So let's just click this, and we can see now that we do not have the resources still, or the layout shown, and that's because if we hover over here, it's using compacted coal, which is another alternate recipe. So we will unlock that here, and then from here we have the layout shown. Again, it is choosing to use SAM when we don't want it to. So if we go over here and we deselect SAM once again, we can see our production is not sure why it's showing that. Yeah, let's not worry about that. I don't know why it's showing iron ore where it shouldn't be. So we have our 180 crude oil going to 3 fuel refineries with a byproduct. It's the blue tab here, or blue labeled section here, of 90 polymer resin. Then we're also using 80 sulfur and 80 coal to produce that compacted coal to go to our turbo fuel refineries to produce 100 turbo fuel per minute. I should also mention on the subject of energy, if you want to see the cost of producing this per minute in terms of power, you can see that for the 9 refineries and the 4 assemblers, we're going to be using 293.808 megawatts. And you can actually see the cost of all of these buildings. So if you want to just set this up, you can grab these resources and take it with you. It's just like clicking the to-do list in Satisfactory. We're now going to have a look at another recipe that's often causes a problem for people who come into my chat and ask how to sort this out. So we'll add another production line, and this time we're going to be producing plutonium fuel rods. Now I'm going through the process of me working out what's wrong with this so that we can open up the planner, and I'm hoping you're finding this useful. If you do have any other questions, please let me know with this so that maybe we can do a more advanced look at this in the future, but I think this should cover all the bases. So this time, if we go to the recipes like we did for turbo fuel and we type in plutonium fuel rod, we have the recipe here. Now, plutonium fuel rods are not an alternate recipe, and you don't need any alternate recipes in order to produce these. You do need, though, heat sinks, electromagnetic control rods and steel beams, which are quite easy to produce, and encased plutonium cells. Plutonium cells are produced with plutonium pellets and concrete, and the plutonium pellets are produced using non-fissile uranium and uranium waste. And it's also important to note with the non-fissile uranium, you also need uranium waste as well. So the issue here is not that we don't have the recipe available, but if we go to our inputs, the calculator bases all the production lines off the raw resources that we have here. And because uranium waste is not a raw resource, nor is it a byproduct of a production. It is a byproduct, but it's not part of a production chain. It's a byproduct from burning off the uranium fuel rods. So because of that, we need to add a custom input. Now you can use this for your factories if you're wanting to do, I don't know, heavy modular frames and you're importing modular frames. You can do that here. You can add your modular frames as an input to that factory. But in this circumstance, we need to add uranium waste. And so now that we have uranium waste, you can see we're still having an issue. And for this, I often recommend just adding on a number of zeros, a lot of zeros apparently, until you can find the result. It could be that this isn't the solution, but normally it's to do, yeah, you see here. It will only calculate it if you have enough of that item. And so if we grab our input here, you can see that we need 2,000 uranium waste, which was why it wasn't showing up. And that's because the plutonium fuel rod factory is producing 10 per minute, which we really don't need. It's unlikely you're going to be doing a factory that big. But here you can see we have, for one plutonium fuel rod, this whole production tree. And this is excluding the uranium fuel rods that you need in order to burn off to produce the uranium waste. But here you can see we need 200 uranium waste, and we can move the items across. That will allow us to produce the plutonium fuel rods. If you want to produce the uranium fuel rods here, you can. Unfortunately, I don't think it allows you to calculate the byproduct, which is a little bit of a shame when it comes to this, because that would be really useful knowing for this particular tree. But you can add as many factories as you want to this. You can do your thermal propulsion rocket factories, and you can see it's just going to get bigger and bigger. I highly recommend, if you're going to be using this tool, which I use for pretty much all of my larger builds, that you create a separate production line for each individual factory. And if you have a mega factory, rather than do it all in one tab, break it down into smaller sections, and you're going to find it much easier. But there we are, guys. I hope you found this useful. This is the tool that I use when I'm planning all of my factories, and hopefully now that I've given you the breakdown on how to use the tool, you'll find it really useful when you're building your own factories. But if you do have any questions, let me know in the comments below. And if there are any guides you'd like me to cover in the near future, do let me know in the comments below. I do have a list of guides that I really want to get sorted for you. And I am also working on the guided playthrough and the next episode of the Let's Play as well. So you can expect them in hopefully within the next 2 weeks. It's just taking me a while to get back into the flow of things, having had a couple of weeks break from content creation. So just hold on, bear with me. I will have them released to you shortly. But guys, we are going to leave it there. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you so much to all of our amazing supporters on Patreon, most notably our Lunar Eclipse patrons, Fireflesh, The Calamity, Ben and Star, and our Blood Moon of the Day, which today is Papa Snoozy. Until next time, as always, ciao for now.